before the video starts. Like nobody is subscribed, so please subscribe. Thank you. What is up, my fellow gamers? We are here with a Dark Magician deck profile, the best one on YouTube. We're gonna start this off right away by letting you know, this is not the most competitive deck, but played right, with a lot of practice, you could probably take your way all the way up to Platinum 1 with this. So, let's start this off right away. Let's discuss Dark Magician. Obviously, the normal monster, 2500 attack, level 7 spellcaster, Yugi's ace monster, and we're about to show you how this card can be turned into a beast. Second card we have is Magician Souls. This is a very good card. It was printed pretty recently. By pretty recently, I mean within the last 5 years. Pretty much, it's got an effect. You can send 2 spells and traps from your hand or field to graveyard, draw that many, which is pretty good when you consider how many spells and traps we play in this deck. Then you can send a level 6 or higher spellcaster monster from your deck, and then either send it to the graveyard and summon Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl, but you'll want to summon Dark Magician, or you can just summon itself, so that then you can use this field effect to send your spells and traps to the graveyard and draw them. It's a really useful card. It actually has a lot more utility outside of this deck as well that you might not have expected, but this is definitely a great card. This is one you definitely want to be seeing. I'd probably be playing more ways to search it if the main deck wasn't so tight on this. Speaking of the main deck being tight, we've got the 6 mandatory hand traps. And I know a lot of people might not be interested in hand traps, but I'll tell you now, if you want to play in the meta, you've got to have these. These 6 should be in pretty much every deck you build, and that is Max C and Ash Blossom. For those of you not aware, Max C, during your place turn, you send it from your hand to the graveyard, and each time there's a special summon, you draw a card. This can shut off the deck's entire turns. This can be your deciding factor in whether you win. You need to have this card in your deck. And Ash Blossom, when a card or effect is activated that involves any of these effects, so adding a card from deck to hand, especially from the deck or sending a card from the graveyard, you can discard and negate it. Great card, you need to be having it. We played a 1 copy of Dark Magician Girl, because a lot of the Dark Magician support is all about Dark Magician Girl, and actually it's really quite good. We played a 2 Apprentice Illusion Magician. You can special summon it by discarding a card, which is fine usually. But for summoned, you can add a Dark Magician from your deck to your hand, which can be pretty useful. And then you can discard it from your hand to give your Dark Spellcaster 2000 attack and defense, but only during damage calculation. Now we get into the spells, which is the biggest part of this deck. Obviously, he's a magician, and things magicians do best are spells. So, we've got the 1000 Knives. We only played a 1 copy. It's a searchable out. You don't really want to see it. You kind of want it to be in your deck to search for Eternal Soul, which we'll get to later in the deck list. We've also got Dark Magic Attack, which is searchable in a lot of ways, and it destroys all spells and traps your opponent controls, which is really, really kind of impactful. Bond Between Teacher and Student is a card I underrated when I first saw it being announced. If you control Dark Magician, special summon Dark Magician card from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and then you can set Dark Magic Attack, like we have here, Dark Burning Attack, which we're not playing, or Dark Burning Magic, or Dark Magic Twin Burst, which, that's a lot of cards that you can just search. Really, it's only going to search Dark Magic Attack and Dark Burning Magic. 2 of the most important cards in this deck for removal. That card's really useful because it's not difficult to put Dark Magician on the board. As we've seen, Magician Souls can put it on the board. We've got plenty of ways to search it, and we're going to get through some more of them. But firstly, we get to Magician's Salvation, the field spell. Once activated, you set an Eternal Soul directly from your deck, which is great, which actually makes it so much easier not to have to run 3. I much prefer being able to run 2 and then run 3 of this, because it lets me play around with the consistency a bit, especially considering this field spell does more than just this. If you normal summon or special summon Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl, target one of them, and then summon Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl with a different name. So if I summon Dark Magician, summon Dark Magician Girl. If I summon Dark Magician Girl, summon Dark Magician. Obviously, that's only once per turn, but still, that's a really useful effect. So, this means that Dark Magician Girl is really easy to put onto the field now. I would honestly consider running 2 if you've got the cards for it, if you've got the space in the deck. Maybe it's worth cutting possibly some infinite impermanences, which I'll talk about in a second. You should probably run 2, but I'm only running the 1. Obviously, I've not crafted this deck. I play it on my mobile alt, but I haven't been playing it on PC just yet. Dark Magical Circle, when it's activated, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Then you can reveal one of them that is either Dark Magician or a spell or trap that lists it. So that can be Thousand Knives, Dark Magic Attack, Bomb Between Teacher and Student, Magician's Salvation, itself, Dark Burning Magic, Soul Servant, Magician's Navigation, Destined Rivals, or Eternal Soul, or even just Dark Magician itself. This searches pretty much a lot of your deck. Also place the remaining cards on top of your deck in any order. So you add them, and then you get to stack your deck for whatever you want to draw. Then if Dark Magician is normal special summon, you can target a card your opponent controls and banish it. That's pretty big. That is actually a really big benefit, because you can summon it on your opponent's turn. And we'll get to how in a second. I know I'm pushing this along a bit. Play Dark Burning Magic. If you control monsters whose original names are Dark Magician, Dark Magician Girl, destroy a card your opponent controls as a quick effect. This is a really good spell, but only because you've got this field spell and you've got Bond between teacher and student. If we didn't have those, this card would be useless, but this is incredibly good now. This is how the deck should be played. Then we got the Soul Servant, which is actually a really good card. Place a card from on top of your deck. Place a card on top of the deck from your hand, deck, or graveyard that is Dark Magician or list Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl in this text except self, which is pretty good. Then during your main phase, you can banish it, draw cards equal to the number of Palladium, we don't have any of those, Dark Magician and or Dark Magician Girls with different names on the field and in the graveyards. You can only use the effect once per turn. This is pretty much a search. If I have Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl in on the field or in the graveyard, I can activate this, put any card I want, realistically within reason, on top of the deck, and then banish from the graveyard, draw a card. Because this is not a hard once per turn for both the effects. So I can activate the first effect and then banish it straight away after. This is a really good card. It's kind of crucial to making sure you can do everything you need to. Then we got Magician's Navigation, which is a normal trap. Special Dark Magician from your hand. Then special a level 7 or lower Dark Spellcaster monster from your deck. Level 7 or lower does happen to include Dark Magician Girl. It can also include Magician's Souls if it gets on field effect. And I guess you can do Apprentice Illusion to search a Dark Magician, but you don't really need to. If you control Dark Magician, except turn it to the graveyard, you can banish it, target a face of spell trap your opponent controls, negate it. This is a trap in the graveyard, which means that you can activate this banish effect in your opponent's turn. So that's a spell trap negate on your opponent's turn, pretty much for free. So this is a really good effect. Infinite Permanence, this is another hand trap. This isn't so much needed, but given that we have Magician's Souls, so that if I see unnecessary spells or traps, I can just get rid of them for more cards, I'm quite happy to put this in. It's a negate, but only if you control no cards on the field, and even if you set it, you get extra effects with it. So Infinite Permanence, it's a good card, but it's nowhere near as mandatory as Ash and Maxi. Destined Rivals, this is one I was kind of on the fence about, because the effect is amazing. If you control Blue Eyes, which we want, or Dark Magician, negate the effects of all face-on monsters your opponent currently controls until the end of this turn. This is great if, say for example, you know, your opponents set up their board, they're going to kill you, but for whatever reason, you've still got Blue Eyes, you've got Dark Magician on the board. In your standby phase, you activate this, they've got nothing. So either they have to negate this, or that's it, they lose their board. And you can do this on your opponent's turn as well. Negate some of their more crucial effects while they're going. And then lastly, we've got the card I've talked so much about, Eternal Soul. This is actually a really old card at this point. Every Dark Magician in your monster zone is unaffected by your opponent's card effects, which is pretty big. Not gonna lie, it's pretty big. If this face-up card leaves the field, destroy all monsters you control. So that's its downside. Obviously, if your opponent destroys this, you feel a big effect. But then you get these two effects. Go and activate one of these a turn. Special Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard. Pretty good. Add Dark Magic Attack or Thousand Knives from deck to hand. So, we already have a searcher for Dark Magic Attack in Bond between teacher and student, but now you can focus this on Dark Burning Magic, which is the one better used with it. As well as the fact that we can search Thousand Knives, which is spot removal. You control Dark Magician, just destroy opponent your monster, destroying a monster your opponent controls. Really quite a useful effect. But then we get to the extra deck, where I think people really have been sleeping in Master Duel nowadays. So obviously, we need to have some ranked 7s. Dark Magician is a level 7 spellcaster. We need to have some level 7s to make use of it. So we play number 11 Big Guy. This is a super old Xyz. A lot of you guys probably know about this. Attach material, target a card your opponent controls. Take control, but it can't attack. So you can use it to start picking apart your opponent's board. Then we get to the card that I feel should have been talked more about, the fact that it was unbanned. And that is number 42, Galaxy Tomahawk. Once per turn, detach 2 Xyz materials from this. Special summon as many Battle Eagle tokens as possible. But destroy them during the end phase of your turn, your opponent takes a further bad damage this turn. The bad damage doesn't matter. Destroy during the end phase doesn't matter. Because what you can do is you can link summon with them. Which is why I'm going to skip ahead to these. We have Cleafort Genius, which is just a link 2 that requires 2 machine monsters. And it does actually have a pretty useful effect. Being that A, it's unaffected by spells and traps of activated monsters and of other link monsters. And also you can target a face-up card in both players' fields, except itself, and negate their effects. So, let's say you're going second, you make Galaxy Tomahawk, and your opponent's got this really annoying monster that can't be destroyed by whatever. You could just negate its effects with Genius while you're doing all your link plays, and you'll have a much easier time dealing with it. We also have Great Fly, which is, it's just one that takes 2 win monsters. It gives some win monsters some attack points, but that doesn't really matter given the nature of Tomahawk. We also have Win the Wind Charmer, which is great if you're playing against a deck that has wind monsters. You can target a wind monster in your opponent's graveyard, special to a zone to cut points to. If it's destroyed, you can add a wind that this last effect is useless, so you can't use it. Then we get our 3 link boss monsters, which you'll be making with all these tokens, which is Borosor Dragon. Crazy card. Not as good anymore, I have to say. Definitely not as good as it used to be. Now that we've got some better cards, one of which we are playing. But it gains attack equal to whatever it fights. You can change the battle position of a monster to make it get a second attack. Like, it's very powerful. Appaloosa, obviously this is monster negates. It gains attack equal to the number of materials times 800. And then you can lose 800 attack to negate a monster effect your opponent activates. So what you can do with this is you can use Tomahawk, Genius, and Great Fly, because that would make a link 4 if you count Genius as 2 link ratings, Great Fly as 1, and Tomahawk as 1. So you get 3 negates on an Appaloosa, which is very good. Because bear in mind, this doesn't have to be summoned to the extra monster zone. It's just technically better. Not really, given that the majority of our link monsters are link 2. So if you only summon 4 more tokens, it doesn't really matter. You're only going to use 4 more tokens. The other one's just going to sit there. We then also have Access Code Talker. Now again, I do have to point out that when you activate Galaxy Tomahawk, your opponent won't take damage that turn. So you can't kill them in the turn you do this. But you can use it to set up for your OTK in the next turn as well. So obviously Access Code Talker, your opponent can't respond to its effects. If it's Link Summon, target a Link monster used for its Link Summon. And it gains attack equal to its Link rating times 1000. So it's going to gain 2k. So it's going to be a 4-3 monster. And then you can banish a Link monster, destroy a card your opponent controls. Also, for the rest of the turn, you cannot banish monsters with the attribute to activate this effect. So you'll get an Earth and a Wind, pretty much. So that's quite useful for its effect. But if we go back to Xyz quickly, we have Mecha Phantom Beast Draco Sack, which is a rank 7. The attachment material summons 2 tokens, which you can use for Link Summon if you want. But that's not really the main focus of it. Once per turn, you contribute a token, target a card in the field, destroy it. And it cannot attack during the turn, activates that effect. So it's more removal. If you have 2 Dark Magicians on board, but let's say you don't have the cards to actually do the removal, it can be pretty useful. Ebon Illusion Magician, pretty much once per turn, detach an Xyz material, special summon a spellcaster normal monster from your hand or deck. And when a spellcaster normal monster declares an attack, you can target a card your opponent controls, banish it. It's kind of useful. But then we also have Airborne High Magician. Whilst card is Xyz material, you can activate quick play spell cards or a trap card from your hand on your opponent's turn by detaching an Xyz material, which becomes so much better with Destined Rivals. And then if the Xyz summon card is destroyed by battle, you don't usually have to worry about this bit, but you can special summon a Dark Spellcaster from your hand or deck, then destroy a card in the field. Then we also have to play Divine Arsenal, AA, Zeus, Sky Thunder. You play Xyz monsters in this deck. If your Xyz monster battles, you can special summon this in your main phase 2. And then you can detach 2 materials from it, destroy a card your opponent controls. There's a reason this card's at 1. It probably should be banned. And we played the 1 Link Karibo. You might think, well, why are you bothering playing this? It's kind of useful for if you summon Magician Souls. This is better on the board on your opponent's turn. The Magician Souls is on its own. So keep that in mind. But yeah, that's pretty much this list. If I had to make a comment about Dark Magician, I would say it's not very budget, but obviously it's an anime deck. They know people love the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, so they want to try and, you know, make sure I spend a bit of money. But yeah, generally I would say if this is your interest, then go for it. I don't think this is possibly like the best deck by far. You know, it's one of the better decks, but you know, take it with a grain of salt to whether you think this is going to be the best deck of the format. But good luck to anyone who uses this list to go on to ladder. Anyone who gets to Plat 1 with this, be sure to leave a comment. And since at the end of it, can you guys remember to subscribe and like the video? This is your boy Dr. Large. We in charge. Something. Subscribe again. Thanks for watching.